Hi everyone, my name is Kaydence, and welcome to Still I Grow. This is a space rooted in honesty, where we let go of the need for perfection and give ourselves permission to meet life as it is. Everyone's stories carries moments of challenge, moments that reshape the way we see ourselves and the world around us. These moments don't break us, they build us. And that growth is rarely ever linear, but rather a conscious choice to continue becoming. This podcast is for those navigating uncertainty, finding meaning in complexity, and choosing to grow, even when it feels uncomfortable. No matter where you are in the journey that we call life, still I grow. Glad to have you all back here with me at Still I Grow. I'm messing around with how the camera is set up and the light and whatnot, so the angles change every day. I'm pretty sure you can see this table. I won't know till after I record this, but I don't really care. This is the table that I have here when I record. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. It's just so I can get the mic close to my face, but also so I can see my notes down here. I highly recommend you check out my last episode. I talk about myself as an actor and an artist, and I discuss some of my career goals, why I love it, and my inspiration. All things like that. So if you want to get to know me and who I am as an artist, I highly recommend that episode. And to keep up with our weekly topic changes, I say weekly, it's like weekly for 2 weeks and then bi-weekly for the next half of the month. But scheduling is also a little bit off right now. So just know that will also be more structured moving forward. I just need to figure some things out. So more fun things happen over on the Instagram, so you can follow it. It's called still.igrow. Again, we release weekly topics. We also release really fun things, what are they called? Thought-provoking Thursdays. There we go. We release thought-provoking Thursdays, or just some random quotes that make you think about certain things, as well as we have some reels, and you can see what we're up to. Last week, me and Victor, who is the social media manager for this podcast, me and him went to High Performance Rodeo and checked out Danielle McIver's It's Your Show Here is what it was called. It was a great one-act, beautiful story, beautiful play, and I'm glad we got to check that out. Today's topic is going to be my first trail review on this channel. I've been so excited to make this episode, by the way, because a big part of my lifestyle and who I am as a person is the outdoors. I'm very grateful to have grown up right next to some of the most famous and most beautiful mountains in the entire world that people spend thousands of dollars to go see. I'm an hour drive away. So I'm very grateful that that's where I am living and where I've grown up. I'm a big lover of hiking, but my true love for the great outdoors has come from overnight backpacking. And with this podcast, I truly wanted to talk about things that I loved and hopefully find and meet other people and converse with other people that share those same interests and passions. As well as inspire those who have never tried it and want to try new things. So today's trail that we're going to be reviewing is going to be called Shadow Lake. It's in Banff National Park. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Shadow Lake tenting sites, starting from the Red Earth Creek trailhead. Shadow Lake is very well known because the Alpine Club of Canada has some very luxe cabins up there. It's actually funny. The first thing that comes up when you search Shadow Lake on Google is Shadow Lake Lodge. So it's very well known, very famous. But when we stayed, we tented. As well, Shadow Lake can be accessed from a bunch of different trailheads. I actually have this map sitting right here that I definitely can use in this situation. I don't know how well you're going to see this, so I'm going to try my best. So right here in the middle, that's Shadow Lake. Right there is Red Earth Creek Trailhead. I'll put this up to the camera so you can see it better. But you can see that there's a bunch of different trailheads. You can start from Arnica Lakes, you can go from Twin Lakes and take the Gibbon Pass route. You can even go all the way from Sunshine Village through Egypt Lake, through Ball Pass Junction, through to Shadow Lake. So there's a bunch of different ways to access Shadow Lake, and it just varies on length and difficulty and how long you want to spend. I did this as a 2-day, 1-night trip, so in and out. That is mostly why I chose the Red Earth Creek trailhead entrance. So yeah, that's the Shadow Lake that I'm talking about. If any of you have been to Shadow Lake Lodge, please comment, because I want to know how it is, and I want to know how beautiful it is and how worth it is, because I definitely like to go back one day and maybe stay in the cabins, who knows. So Shadow Lake, according to All Trails, because I didn't record my actual kilometers off my phone, from the Red Earth Creek trailhead is around 28.2 kilometers. So that's not including the stop that you have to take on the campground, because the campground is a kilometer away. So that's full from the trailhead all the way to the lake, passing the campground. But again, it's All Trails, so you should add a kilometer or two to make it a little more accurate. And round trip, it's about 1,036 meters of elevation gain total. It's designed as an out and back trail, but like I said, there is various points of access to this trail, and it can be done in many different ways. It is a very popular trail, so it's very wide from the Red Earth Creek trailhead up until the bike racks. There's a lot of beautiful views on your way in, and wildflowers. There were so many flowers. They were beautiful. On the way, there's a beautiful view of Copper Mountain at one point. That's very beautiful. The incline is gradual to start with, up until like the 10K, 8K mark, I'm pretty sure. That's when it kind of is a little bit of a struggle, but it's okay. You push through. You'll pass a campsite called Lost Creek Campground. That's around the 6.5 kilometer mark. It looks pretty dead. I mean, like, it looks well maintained, but we didn't see anyone camping there, and we didn't see anybody stop there, so it's not as popular. A lot of people will bike these kilometers, so the majority of the kilometers up until the bike racks, which are around 9.5 to 10 kilometers in, right at the bike racks. So there's two options from what I understand from this map. Yes. So, on your way, hold on. Yep. So, you can bike up until like the 10 kilometer point, but then there's two options. You can go down a little path and you're going to encounter a warden cabin, and then the other way is to Shadow Lake. Now, this is a very steep, rocky and rooty section. It took us a while. It's about 405 to 500 meters. I struggle on really sharp, steep sections, but I was able to manage. I definitely had to stop a few times and but it is definitely manageable as long as you're taking breaks, and especially if you cut a lot of those kilometers off with biking, makes it super easy. The campground itself, so the tent sites are very well spaced out. We had no problems. I think there was only like one other group actually staying in the campground. I mean, I only saw one other tent. There might have been two, but I'm not sure. The sites are nice and open. We took one of the first ones coming into camp, so we weren't too far from the outhouse, because from my knowledge, there's only one. So there might be two. I didn't see two. But we stayed to the one close to the outhouse that you first see. Water is very easily accessible at this campground. There's a pump, but there's also a few little spots that you can get some water. One of the cons is that the cooking area felt very fucking far away. We were like, why is this so aggressively far? But bears, so makes sense. There are a lot of bear lockers, but one table. There's like 15 bear lockers. 15 bear lockers and one table to fit, like, you could probably fit 10 people if you really, really tried. Luckily, because there was only one or two other groups there, we never really came across them. We never aligned our eating times. Like, we didn't see anybody else in that campsite, so every time we were in the cooking area, we were alone, so it wasn't terrible. And we got that big table to ourselves. Also to note, I already mentioned this already, I was not aware of this before going, but the lake is 1 to 1.5 kilometers away from the actual campsites and the cabins. It's not a hard walk to get there, so it's most definitely worth it to go. You can see it on this map. Yeah, it says 1 on the map. But I'll hold this up again because I still don't know if you guys can see it. So I'm hoping that you can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, the campsite and the lodges are separate from the lake, so you do have to hike in there a little bit. At the lake, you can walk on the bridge that's a connector to Ball Pass Junction. So if you keep going that way for, I believe, 5 to 8 kilometers, you'll hit Ball Pass Junction, which is kind of just the in-between campsite between Egypt Lake and Shadow Lake. The main mountain that you see in a lot of pictures that people take at Shadow Lake is Mount Ball. And Shadow Lake is basically the backside of Stanley Glacier. It isn't really, but it kind of is. So anyone that's been to Stanley Glacier, it's just, if you were to go fully up the other side of those mountains, you'd hit Shadow Lake. Probably not possible, but it's there. And you can see it, like, you can see Beatrice Peak and Shadow Mountain. You also get views of Gibbon Pass Peak West and Gibbon Pass Peak, as well as Isabel Peak. So there's a lot of pretty things to see when you're there. Now I want to do a main gear breakdown. Now I don't have everything with me, but I do have a couple things that I want to show and talk about. We're going to move this over here because some of my gear is under that. Okay, so I'll talk about like my bag and my sleep system mainly and some other little things. So starting with the basics, I use an Osprey Ariel 65 liter pack. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this all in frame, so I'm really trying. So this is the pack. It's pretty big, but I mean, it's 65 liters, so it is nice. Okay. And the thing with Ospreys is they're never on sale. Yay. But they're also, I like how they design it. There's a lot of loops and hooks and whatnot, so I do end up carabinering. Is that a word? Clipping. There we go. Clipping a lot of things to my pack on the outside, like my camp shoes, and some tent pieces. So I love this pack. It fits me so well. It is a women's cut, so it does have like boob space and hip space. I love Osprey packs in general. I've tried a lot of them on, but this is the one that I went with. Aesthetics don't matter, but it is pretty. But for a 65 liter, you can pack it full. It is amazing. I will never have anything bad to say about this pack. So now talking about my sleep system, I didn't bring out my sleeping bag because I didn't want to. So the things that I'm referring to in here, go Google them. Okay. So previously I used the Mountain Hardwear -9 Lamina women's sleeping bag, and it was like my first actual like backpacking sleeping bag. But I naturally sleep like this. So, and I like to move around a lot. I like to be able to put up my leg and whatever. And the Lamina just is a mummy cut, so it's for people that sleep like this. And that's not how I sleep. So I decided, okay, we got to invest in a new thing. Also, for anyone that has a Lamina, I hope you guys can relate. But the Mountain Hardwear Lamina packs terribly. It does not pack down small enough. I would sit on it. I would step on the stuff sack to try to get it smaller, and it just wouldn't go. I think that also has to do with the design of the stuff sack that it comes with, but it also just never got smaller. So that was a con about that sleeping bag. And so I switched to the MEC Mountain Equipment Company Delphinus -9 down sleeping bag. I got it in the wide cut. It feels so much better, and I like to be able to like kind of bunch it up by my face and feel like a blanket, and that's something I get to do with that one. It's so warm. There's a lot of space in it to move, but it packs down even smaller than the Lamina did. Which is, I was surprised by that. I was like, oh, it's a wider cut, so it'll be a little bit bulkier, but whatever. For being a wide sleeping bag, it packs better than a Mummy sleeping bag. I will say that the Lamina is just slightly warmer, even though they are the same temperature rating, but still the Delphinus is very, very warm. So I love that. The sleeping pad that I took, I used a new sleeping pad on this trip. They're sitting right beside me, so I'm going to dig it out. There we go. So I used the Sea to Summit Ultralight sleeping pad. This was just a hand-me-down. This is not, I didn't buy this, because somebody else had it and they said, I hate this, do you want it? And I said, absolutely, because it was way smaller than my other sleeping pad. So I love how comfy this is. As a side sleeper, I really appreciate this sleeping pad. I do make fun of it sometimes because it's bright fucking yellow and we call it Genie Slipper or Banana Boat or Magic Carpet because this is also the long version of it. So it's like longer and wider and it's really funny because it curls up at the end of the tent a little bit. So it looks like a genie slipper. So we make fun of that every time this leaves this bag. But I love how comfy it is, but the R value on this thing is only like 1.5, so it's rated for warmer climates. Now, I can use it because I only really backpack in the summer, so it does insulate some, but in the future, I will be making an investment to get a warmer sleeping pad. And I'll be looking towards a higher R value pad. For anyone that doesn't know what R value is, it's basically just like how much it can insulate you from the ground. So having an R value of 1, this thing doesn't really insulate you at all. Having an R value of like 5 is aggressive winter. So somewhere in the middle of that is what I am looking for. But still a great sleeping pad. I used a lot of new gear on this trip. I also used, for the first time, the Sea to Summit Eros Premium Pillow. There's just the regular one. It is I like how small it is. This thing, so I used to sleep with this is embarrassing. I used to sleep with a dry bag with clothes in it under my head, and it would fall out of my neck crevice like constantly, and I was just like, you know what, I can deal with it, it's fine, it's whatever. But I was like, no, I want to splurge because I love backpacking so much. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna splurge, I'm gonna get a pillow. And that's funny because I also used to make fun of people that used backpacking pillows because I thought they were being princesses, but no, I did invest in one, and I'm glad I did. So there are options for Sea to Summit pillows with down in them. They're like $100, so I was like, hell no. But also, I don't need an insulated pillow. I sleep with a toque on anyways, so that doesn't matter to me at all. Now we'll talk about some feet things. So after many blisters, I would get blisters every time I put my boots on, not because they didn't fit, just because I was wearing the wrong socks. I invested in a $30 pair of Smartwool socks. I use the word investment very intentionally because $30 for socks is fucking ridiculous. But I promise you it is worth it. If you're experiencing blisters in boots that you really, really like and want to keep, I promise an investment in Smartwool socks will fucking help you. These guys, there's a little bit of tree sap on them that I can't get out. But these guys are fucking incredible socks, and I'm so glad I made that purchase because literally no blisters anymore. The boots that I wore on that trip were the women's Newton Ridge Plus waterproof boots made by Columbia. Those boots were incredible. I had them for 4 years at that point, and I will forever be a hiking boot girl. There's just so much ankle support and foot support that you can't get out of a trail runner, and especially when you're carrying a lot of weight on your back, I think it's so important to have that ankle support. So again, I had them for 4 years, and they are still amazing. Like, I'd still wear them. But I decided with the amount of trips that I'm going on now that I should probably invest in some better, less worn out boots, because those ones are also pretty fucking worn out. So yeah. I'll show you my new boots. I haven't worn them on trail yet because it's winter time and I don't like being outside in the cold. They're the Solomon Women's Quest 4 hiking boots with Gore-Tex for the waterproofing. I'll grab them 1 second. These are the boots. They're very stylish, but I didn't pick them for style. I really liked how this looked at the bottom. I mean, probably I was pretty impressed because my current ones are very worn out. So anything with a lot of grip impresses me. But also when I put them on, there's a lot of arch support in this, which I don't have in my other boots. And also the ankle support on this is insane. Oh my god. Compared to the Newtons, they're like, the ankle's just probably like half an inch, maybe an inch higher, and it offers so much support. So I invested in a pair of these guys. They're like my Christmas gift to myself, but they were incredible. Once I wear them on trail, I will let you know my full review, but from trying them on a couple times and wearing them around the house a little bit, they are amazing. So that's kind of the basic gear. I'll talk a little bit about food. So in this journal, this is my hiking journal, I also take note of some of the food that I eat. My guilty pleasure while hiking is Nerd Gummy Clusters. So I packed some of those. For dinner, we had pasta carbonara. It was a little thick, but I mean, after a full day of hiking, it was great to eat something of substance. And on our way up, we also had cold roadie tacos, is what we kept calling them, because it was like freezing cold, like meat, and like I think it was like meat and arugula in a tortilla. It was great, and like very cold, aggressively hard cheese, but it was great. I mean, it fueled me. So, yeah. So this journal keeps a lot of my stuff. My handwriting is aggressive, but this is also what inspired me to start making trail review episodes. It's because I said, hey, I had this journal with all my trips in it. Why not talk about them? So this is where all the trip and trail reviews will come from, is this book. So now I want to talk about my feelings of this trip before and after. We're going to look into the physical, the mental, and emotional. So physically, before this trip, I was aggressively sick, like extreme cold, probably should have stayed at home in bed, like taking drugs type sick, but I didn't want to let this permit go to waste because I saw how beautiful it was. I went, fuck, I gotta make the decision. I'm not gonna waste it. Let's just push through. So when I say something was hard on this trip, I'm not lying, just from my experience, but probably if I go back, it'll change a little bit. And some of the things were harder than they usually are, like breathing. There were a lot of times where I'd stop. This is really gross. I'd have to stop and just like get snot out so that I could breathe properly, but you do what you gotta do. The mental, I was a bit nervous, kind of because I was sick, but also, this is my first like really long backpacking trip on a harder trail, so I didn't really know what to expect. I was nervous, and all I knew was that it was gonna be a push. I'd have to challenge myself a lot more than I usually do to complete this trail. Luckily, my second mom, Corey, you'll hear me talk about her literally every time I talk about backpacking, because 99% of the time she is with me. She's the woman who got me into backpacking. She was there with me. She always reminds me to pause when I need to, pace myself, and embrace challenges. She's a really good motivator, and I love backpacking with her, because even when I'm in moments of like head down, not talking, sort of just walking, she is always there to crack a joke and make me laugh, and that's something that you need sometimes on trail when you're struggling. Emotionally, I was really excited, again nervous, but I felt very ambitious considering that I chose to do this while I was sick, and I was aggressively tired as well. even though the only place I wanted to be at that time was my bed, I was very stoked to do that trip. So afterwards, physically, I was still incredibly sick, and this trip actually made me realize how fucking sick I actually was. When we got to camp for the night, we got there around 2 or 3 p.m. after starting at 9. I don't actually know. I wasn't gonna even make the 1.5 kilometer trip to the lake because all I wanted to do was sleep, and not do anything and not move. But then I realized that I was most likely gonna regret making that decision, and that if I didn't push through, I'd really hate myself for it. So I just got up, put my boots on, and got to the lake, and I'm so glad I did that because that view is priceless. So glad I pushed myself in that moment. And my body was sore the next day and for like the 2 following days, but it was still worth it. Mentally, I was very refreshed. After backpacking, always, I feel as though a weight has been lifted off my shoulder, like literally because you're dropping your pack off at the car, but just in general, I like backpacking because I like doing hard things. And when I complete a challenge like backpacking on a new trail, it makes the other challenges and problems and issues that I have in my life seem a little less scary and a little bit smaller and easier to tackle. So that's something that I really like that transitions over to like my daily life. Emotionally, I was happy because I completed something that was really hard when I was probably not at my best. I was very excited to get home and rest up after that trip. And again, I was feeling very confident because this was one of the hardest trails I'd done up to that point. So I felt really awesome completing something like that. My overall recommendation is an absolute 10 out of 10. If you get the opportunity to go on this trail, even if you're sick, do it. I promise you it is worth it. Such a beautiful trail that I got to do with beautiful people, and I'm so glad that I got that opportunity. Again, Shadow Lake via Red Earth Creek Trail in Banff National Park. As you move on with your day, or whatever you were doing before this, take a moment to sit with what resonated with you in this episode and leave the rest behind. Remember, growth doesn't have to be loud or obvious, so take life at your own pace. Meet life where it is, and always choose growth. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on our Instagram and TikTok, which is at still.igrow. Our Spotify is a little tricky to find, but it's still, igrow. Our website is linked in the description of this channel and also on our Instagram, in the bio. Subscribe, follow, and hit the bell icon for updates when I post, and I'm very happy to have you join me today.